I'm going to tell you a story the way an American dad might tell it, sitting on a porch late at night, coffee gone cold in his hand eyes, fixed somewhere far away. No big speeches, no sermon, just the truth as he lived it, one breath at a time. It starts with a sound I can't unhear, a phone buzzing in the dark of my bedroom. I rolled over, silenced it without looking, figured it was one of those ghosts from my old FBI days cases that never die, numbers that only call when something's gone wrong. I had no idea my daughter was already lying on cold asphalt a few miles away. The last night we had together was so ordinary, it almost hurts to remember. Chicken in the oven, mashed potatoes, her at the table, talking about some journalism project she was working on. She was 18, hair always falling in her face, laughing with a mouthful of cereal, or singing to herself while writing in those notebooks she carried everywhere. She lit a little candle from the junk drawer, like it was her birthday, made a wish, and teased me about not telling me what it was. I didn't know it would be the last time I'd see her do that. Later, she kissed me on the cheek, said she'd be home before midnight, and left with her friends. I trusted her, trusted the world, even though I'd seen enough to know better. The next morning, the kitchen was quiet, her cereal bowl still in the sink, my phone still buzzing with that missed call. And then the knock at the door. They told me she overdosed. Overdosed. But when I saw her body, there was a bullet wound right above her heart. No drugs in her life. Just the sound of a gunshot and a story already being rewritten. I could smell the disinfectant in the morgue, feel the cold steel under my hands. The coroner wouldn't meet my eyes. These things happen, he said, signing papers like he was burying a stranger, not a child. The police chief called it an unfortunate incident. Body cams malfunctioned. Witnesses went quiet. The whole machine started grinding, spitting out the same words I'd heard 1,000 times while I wore a badge, pending investigation. Technical issues, officer safety. I knew what they were doing. They weren't just burying her body, they were burying the truth. I tried to follow procedure at first. Calls to the DA, emails to the department, knocking on doors, but everywhere I went, doors slammed. Calls dropped, evidence vanished. They dragged her name through mud on the evening news, said she had disciplinary issues, hung out with the wrong crowd. I sat in her room, her notebooks piled up like small towers of everything she was supposed to become, and I felt something in me shift. I wasn't an agent anymore. I was a father, and I knew the system wasn't going to save her. That's when I wrote the names down, the three cops. Sergeant David Rourke, the drunk who pulled the trigger. Officer Neil Carter, young one who stood there and watched. Lieutenant Hank Delroy, the one who wrote the script, covered it up, made my daughter disappear on paper. 3 names, 3 lives, 3 threads in a machine. I traced them over and over until the ink bled through the paper and stained the wood of my desk. I started watching them the way I used to watch suspect's camera in my lap, engine off, breath slow. Rourke spent his nights at an illegal poker table, debts up to his neck. Carter drank whiskey in his garage while pausing the body cam footage he'd hidden from internal review. Delroy wore crisp suits and whispered to the DA in back hallways, shaking hands with men who would cover for him. Predators hide in plain sight. I knew that better than anyone. But knowing it didn't cool the rage. It sharpened it. The first night I went after Rourke, I parked 2 blocks from his poker den. It was cold street light, blinking like a heartbeat. When he stumbled out, face red from whiskey and defeat, I followed on foot, just another shadow in a city full of them. I grabbed him in the alley, knife at his throat. "You remember her," I hissed. 18, brown eyes, curly hair, begged you to stop. He smirked. That same smirk from the dash cam still burned in my brain. It broke whatever was left of my restraint. My fist came down heavy. I pressed the blade into his chest. Once, twice. His blood on my gloves looked too much like hers on the asphalt. When it was over, the streetlights still blinked. For the first time since the morgue, my hands were steady. 2 days later, the news called me a vigilante. Decorated officer murdered. Community shaken. No mention of what he'd done to my daughter. They even ran old photos of her with captions about troubled youth. They erased her twice, first in the alley, then on the air. I didn't stop. Carter was next. I slipped into his garage one night, the smell of whiskey hitting me like a wall. He sat slumped in a folding chair, laptop open to a frozen frame of her face. I pressed the blade to his throat, forced his eyes back to the screen. Look at her, I said. Look at what you let happen. Tears filled his eyes. I didn't pull the trigger, he stammered. But you didn't stop it, I growled. You watched. He whispered he had kids at home. I thought of my own. And then I thought of her last whisper. Daddy. The blade sank in clean. His body sagged, blood pooling under the chair. I closed the laptop. I couldn't stand the sight anymore. After Carter, the city lost its mind. Roadblocks, helicopters, the chief on every channel promising swift justice. Friends told me to stop. An old colleague showed up at my door, said the Bureau was hunting me. He looked at me with eyes full of pity, but he didn't have an answer when I said, they killed her and they'll walk free. He just put a hand on my shoulder and left. By then it was just me and the last name on the list. Delroy, the architect, the one who turned my daughter into a line item on a spreadsheet. He wasn't hiding, he didn't need to. Power makes people believe they're untouchable. But I knew where he went, and after hours, an old precinct building, half abandoned, half storage. No cameras, no eyes. That's where it would end. The night I walked into that building felt like walking into my own grave. Dust in the air, moonlight through broken windows, desks rusting like bones. My breath was loud in my ears, steady but heavy. And then there he was, standing in the middle of the room, uniform, sharp hands behind his back. You've been busy, he said, like he was welcoming me to a meeting. Rourke, Carter, and now here you are. I raised the gun. You buried her. He smirked. She was nothing. Those words hit harder than a bullet. For a second, my vision tunneled. Just another file, he went on. Another statistic. You think this city cares? She's gone and so are you, I charged. The gun fired, dust exploded from the wall. We crashed into a desk, wood splintering, papers flying like feathers. He fought harder than I expected, while desperate. Blood smeared across the floor. My training gave me precision strikes to his ribs, his throat, but he came back swinging, spitting through bloody teeth. Look at you. You've become us. I had him pinned. I fit his throat, one push, and it would be over. But his words kept echoing. Would this be my daughter's story? Her father reduced to the same brutality that ended her life. For a moment, I faltered. He slammed his forehead into my nose, pain exploding white hot. The knife skittered across the floor. We both staggered. I saw his hand reaching for his sidearm, saw the glint, and without thinking, I grabbed the pistol and fired. The shot echoed in the hollow chamber. He fell, eyes wide, blood pooling, still smirking, even as the life left him. Victory should have felt like justice. It didn't. It felt empty. The silence afterward was louder than the act itself. My hands were trembling, foreign. For years they had served justice. Tonight they had served vengeance. I couldn't tell the difference anymore. Outside, sirens wailed closer every second. But on the streets, something else was happening. Candles lit sidewalks where my daughter had died. Hundreds, then thousands chanting her name. Murals bloomed on brick walls, her smile painted in radiant colors. She was no longer a statistic. She was a symbol. A tide rising against a machine that had been grinding us down for generations. I never joined them. I watched from the dark blinds, drawn her photos smudged with blood in my hands. I read her notebooks aloud to the empty room, whispering to her photo. I did it. I stopped them. But I don't know if I saved you or lost myself. The silence always answered. The night they came for me, I didn't run. Outside, protesters held candles chanting her name. Inside, the glow of their flames bled through my curtains, mixing with the flash of approaching sirens. Blue and red lights blinked on my walls, light, then dark hope, then doom. I picked up her photo one last time, pressed it to my chest, whispered her name like a prayer. The door shattered, light flooded the room. I didn't raise my weapon. I didn't resist. I just sat still, eyes fixed on her face while shadows closed in. People remember me two ways now. To the system, I'm a murderer, a vigilante, a man who broke the law. To the streets, I'm a father who gave everything, even his soul, to fight for his daughter's name. Her mural spreads across the city. Children touch the wall. Parents whisper her story. She lives on, not erased, not forgotten. Me, I became the proof that vengeance, even when it delivers truth, can eat you alive. So now I'm asking you, anyone watching this, to decide, was I right or wrong? Is there a line you wouldn't cross if it was your child, your sister, your friend? Have you seen things like this in your own town? Tell me in the comments. Tell the world. Because if her name stays on your lips, maybe it doesn't disappear into paperwork and silence. Maybe it lives. Maybe we all do.